Welcome to the plate tectonics review for Lt3. This is going to be a short part of the test. It's just one page. And when I'm looking at it, I think you'll do all right with it as long as you review a little bit. Now, this one says that students will investigate the mechanics and evidence to support the theory of seafloor spreading and its eventual progression into plate tectonics. So, when we're looking at this, we've already taken a look at Wagner's evidence. That was Lt2. And we've already taken a look at all the layers of the Earth, the different plate boundaries. That was Lt1. So now what we're doing is we're going to go and take a look at that evidence that came about in the 60s, 70s, and beyond that really supported the idea of seafloor spreading, and which eventually led into the theory of plate tectonics. So, first of all, the age of the rocks. Can you guys answer this one? The age of the rocks get blank as you move away from mid-ocean ridges. Let me grab a pen here. So, do you remember the answer to that one? If you said they get newer, they actually get older. And remember that the plates form like the mid-ocean ridge, the mid-Atlantic ridge. That's where magma's coming up. You got convection currents moving around. And as they move, the plates are moving in those direction, and new magma's coming up, basically creating new land right here. And over time, it gets moved out and away. Now, the age of the oldest rocks in the continents would be blank than the age of the oldest rocks in the seafloor. Now, the other big thing to remember is that oceanic plates, whenever they get in contact with continental plates, tend to submerge, they tend to subduct underneath them. And that's because these oceanic plates are going to be more dense, right? So if they're more dense, they're going to subduct. And if the continental plates are less dense, they tend to stay on top. Now, as a result, if the oceans tend to be made up of newer seafloor, and they tend to subduct or get recycled more quickly than continental plates, because continental plates tend to stay on top longer, the continents are actually going to be older than the age of the oldest rocks in the seafloor. Now, hopefully, if this is on the test and it says wind currents, you'll cross that off right away, because that doesn't even make sense. Now, the next set of questions. The theory that the Earth's crust and the upper mantle are broken into sections is called what? Plate tectonics. The idea of seafloor spreading is just the idea that the seafloor is spreading, that it's moving. Now, the Himalayas were formed at a convergent plate boundary, and plates float on. Do you remember which one? Is it the lithosphere or is it the asthenosphere? Now, hopefully you said the asthenosphere, because the lithosphere are the plates. A lot of times I'll call them lithospheric plates. And seafloor spreading occurs because what? Because molten material in the mantle rises to the surface at divergent plate boundaries, new material is being added to the asthenosphere, or sediments accumulate at the area of seafloor spreading. So this doesn't make sense. And new material is being added to the asthenosphere. The asthenosphere is inside the mantle, so it's got to be this one right here. So did you get all these right? I hope so. Right here, let me get a clicker back, and let's go through these. So these are all different things to support the idea of seafloor spreading and not continental drift, but plate tectonics. Location of the youngest seafloor rocks. If you said, again, what I would do is I would pause this, see if you can answer these, and then see if your answers match up. So if you said nearest a ridge for this one, you're right. Direction in which the ocean floor moves, well, if you look for movement, only one word, away, tends to talk about a movement. You can move away from something. Process that forms new seafloor is seafloor spreading. Scientists who suggested theory of continental drift is Wagner. Now, if you're thinking, wait, we already had that question in Lt2 review. Yep, I'll put them in this one too, just to make sure we remember them or learn them, because learning is a relatively permanent behavior process due to practice and or experience, right? So scientists who suggested the theory of seafloor spreading is Harry Hess. Material that rises to surface at mid-ocean ridges. Material that rises to surface, or to the surface, I probably should have said. If you said molten material, you're right. Boundaries where plates collide is convergent, and a place where plates slide past one another is a transform. Do you remember the plate boundary where they moved apart? If you said divergent, you're right. Now, the only other thing I want to go over with briefly is this one right here, this slide. You're going to have to be able to identify the different plates. And if you really look at these plates, this is kind of easy to do. Now, I'm not going to give you a word bank, but just look, what continent is this on? It's the North American. So if you said North American plate, you're right. What plate is D on? It's on Africa. So if you said the African plate, you're right. How about C? C's on South American plate. Yes. E? Now, E's a little bit tricky. It's Asia and Europe. What do you call both of them together? If you said the Eurasian plate, you are 100% correct. And this A, you see two A's. You might think, why is there two A's? Well, what ocean is it in? What's there? If you said the Pacific Ocean, you're right. It's the Pacific plate. And this one's a little tricky. You've got India, you've got Australia. I like to name the I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go with the Indian Australian plate. But I've seen it lots of different ways. I've seen people call it the Australian plate, some people call it the Indian plate, and some people, there's actually a little divider right here, and they'll call it the Indian plate, and this one the Australian plate. So I would accept any of them. You said the Indian plate, the Australian plate. My favorite is the Indian Australian plate, or the Indo-Australian plate, linking them both together. So this was Lt3. Again, as always, if you have any questions that you want to talk about, hopefully you're watching this video before the final day. Hopefully the test isn't tomorrow, so that way you can actually come in, watch it, maybe come in and ask me a few questions yet, and then you can always watch it again as a final review. But as always, please feel free to ask questions. Okay, good luck. Bye.